I am a bit ahead of myself. Okay, so I'll give my at least a brief introduction to myself and how I came into doing this work. I actually started as a volunteer for an organization called 412 Food Rescue when I lived in Pittsburgh after college, and really just fell in love with a couple things, but notably feeding people and just finding a way to give back to my community in a way that was both flexible with my schedule and felt very tangible and impactful. Um, and I also found it to be a really great way to learn about new parts of the city that I hadn't been to or wouldn't have thought to go to by going and actually doing food rescues in those places, whether it was a food donor or a nonprofit. And we'll kind of get into what all that looks like in a second. But um, I was there worked with that organization for the better part of 7 years before eventually moving back to Chicago and kind of using their technology and their methodology to start Chicago Food Rescue, which again I will talk all about. But that's a little bit about my background. So I've been doing food rescue work for 8 years now, but Chicago Food Rescue is about to hit our 1 year anniversary. So we're still a relatively new nonprofit, kind of in our infancy, but have accomplished quite a bit. So um, with that being said, I'm excited to tell you why I think Chicago or why I think food rescue as a concept is a win-win. Um, and the first thing is bridging the gap between food waste and food insecurity. And I guess that kind of encompasses it. Food waste is really bad for the environment. And obviously, food insecurity is a real social problem that we can kind of solve by with food rescue. Um, I alluded to that food access and food insecurity is a really big issue in our country. 1 in 5 Chicagoans, actually, I saw that Greater Chicago Food Depository posted something today that 1 in 4 Chicagoans, 25% of people are food insecure, meaning that they don't necessarily know where their next meal is going to come from over the course of a year. 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 now, Chicagoans face food insecurity. What's interesting about this is that this is not a supply and demand issue. There are millions of pounds of food, good food, edible food, that are thrown away and wasted every year in our country alone. And there are obviously people who are hungry and are in need of the food. The demand side of that exists. So it's not a supply and demand issue. It's a supply chain issue that we can solve with logistics. Um, to me, it's about rethinking how we are, how people can access food. And if we just take the food that ordinarily would be thrown away by grocery stores, caterers, restaurants, so on and so forth, and make that food accessible and readily available and meet people where the need is, we can effectively eliminate hunger. Now, it sounds a little easy when I say it like that, but it really takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of it takes an entire community, it takes a village, as the saying goes, and it's work that needs to be done repetitively, day in, day out, because hunger doesn't just go away if you give somebody a meal once, they'll need lunch, dinner the next day, so on and so forth. Um, but it's to me, it's a logistics problem. So what's the solution for that, right? Um, there are a lot of different solutions, and I think it needs to be said that food rescue is a collaborative part of the overall solution for food waste and for hunger. Um, we exist alongside the food banking and pantry system, and there are mutual aid groups who are doing wonderful work. We are part of that solution and need to fit in along with all of those other wonderful nonprofits and community organizations who are doing great work. The way that we work is by harnessing the power of volunteers through technology. We have an app called Chicago Food Rescue, go figure, that volunteers can download, and then they can see when and where rescues are available, and claim one on their own schedule. It gives the volunteer all the information, where to pick up the food, who to call when they arrive, how much food they're going to be picking up, and then we'll give them directions to the community nonprofit partner, again, with the same information, where to go when they arrive, who to call, so on and so forth, thereby making it really easy for volunteers to pick up the surplus food from the donor location and deliver it directly to local community orgs, who can then serve that food to their clients, constituents, the folks that they're serving either that day or the next day. Um, so it's a really great way to have a rapid recovery response to hunger. Not only that, we're able to work with a highly distributed and varied group of nonprofit and community partners. So, of course, people are familiar with food pantries and soup kitchens, but food access, in my mind, goes far past that. Community fridges, community mental health centers, facilities, after school programs, public housing sites. I could go on and on. The point being that if we can meet people where they are, where if a parent is dropping their kid off or picking their kid up from school and they're able to pick up some food or some produce or a grab and go meal on their way back home, either at the school or somewhere nearby, uh, we're we're solving a lot of issues that include there's access to transportation. There's other things that are all wrapped up within this, and meeting people where the need is part of what we view as accessibility and dignity as well. So I mentioned that we are just about a year old, and our impact so far, I think, is meaningful. But I believe that we're just scratching the surface. Um, 600 rescues in under a year, again, is something. But I think that once we build and grow and really scale to what we can be, again, the idea of using volunteers is that this can be exponential. We can have hundreds of volunteers doing hundreds of food rescues all throughout the week, um, and really make sure that we're getting into different, all sorts of different food donors and geographic areas of the city. So what 600 rescues means is 125,000 pounds of food recovered, which equates to the FDA equivalent is about 100,000 meals. Now that's not the best one-to-one conversion because if you're rescuing, let's say, 300 pounds of produce, that doesn't necessarily make a well-rounded meal, but an aggregate, 125,000 pounds means about 100,000 meals that are recovered. And this has gone to 50, a little over 50 now, community nonprofit partners that we've served all throughout the city of Chicago, as far north as Rogers Park, all the way down to South Shore and Hyde Park, Austin and West Garfield Park on the west side, so all over the city. Um, but it's not just about the food or the meals served or feeding people. I think that's a hugely important part of it. But the CO2 mitigation is a really important factor of this as well. That again, getting to the win-win of this, there's also an impact of minimizing environmental degradation. So 360,000 plus pounds of CO2 mitigated. Now, what does that mean? Because that doesn't mean all that much to me. But when you break it down to the environmental benefits that are a little bit more digestible and easier to understand, what that means is it's the equivalent of 415,000 miles of your average gas-powered car being driven a year. Um, this to me is also a pretty staggering number. You think about, the country I always remember being 3,000 miles wide. So driving back and forth several hundred times across the country is how much CO2 emissions that Chicago Food Rescue has saved by not letting the food that would have otherwise been thrown away, getting it into people's homes, and being eaten. So food being diverted from landfills is a really important part of what impact food rescue can have. Again, so this is, I think that this is such an important part of the food waste and food access solution because you can get involved. Any person who has access to transportation can be involved in rescuing food. People have done rescues on bikes. It's a little bit more difficult. Many people do them in cars, but basically, you're able to get involved and be part of the solution and be part of expanding food access for people and families who aren't able to reach pantries. Again, transportation access is a part of that. So if we're able to meet people where the need is, we're solving another part of the issue. Um, Rescuing food also is it's wonderful to be able to volunteer for hours at a time or an entire Saturday, but a lot of people have really busy schedules and are wanting a more flexible volunteering opportunity while still making an impact. So being able to find a rescue that usually takes less than an hour, sometimes as little as a half hour, and can be done on your way to the gym, after work, on your way to pick up your kids, um, is a really great way to make volunteering flexible and meaningful. Um, and additionally, yeah, it strengthens Chicago's system with dignity. We It's really important that doing this work and providing good meals to people is done with respect, with dignity, with care, making sure that we are working with our nonprofit partners to understand their needs. So if they say, yeah, we have either our dietary restrictions are this, or our dietary cultural preferences are this, that's also an important thing. So we're making sure that we're offering food to our nonprofit partners that actually fits their needs based on their time frame as well. Like if they're open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., calling them with a donation that's only available at 7 p.m. doesn't work. So we're making sure that we're finding something that fits our nonprofit and community partners' needs in order for them to better serve their clients is hugely important. So as I've alluded to, there's a couple of different ways to get involved. Um, Most notably, most easily is to download the Chicago Food Rescue app and check out where and when rescues are available. Um, from there, you can get involved as early as tomorrow. I'm not sure if there are rescues available tomorrow. I haven't looked in the past hour, but you can find a rescue that fits your schedule and claim one. From there, again, you will go to when it's time. You'll get notification to pick up the donation. You'll drive to the donor site, wherever it is. Um, Contact the person at the donor site. They'll either bring out the food or you'll go in and bring it out to your car and then deliver the food directly to a nonprofit partner doing the same thing, bringing it into their facility. Um, Volunteering, flexible, takes as little as an hour of your time, and again, a really great way to give back to your community. Other ways are help funding our mission. You're able to give online through our website at chicagofoodrescue.org, which really will help us grow and expand the work that we do. we This work takes dedication and people working on it day in day out. Right now I am a one person team, so eventually I'll need to hire additional people who can grow our relationships and maintain and establish relationships with new food donors and nonprofit partners and volunteers as well. As the three stakeholders of every rescue, it's important to make sure that those three are all attended to and making sure that that a rescue is happening in concert, and that everything goes off without a hitch, or that if anyone does have an issue, for example, there was something that happened today where one of the nonprofit recipients wasn't able to receive the donation. So having somebody who's able to talk through with the volunteer what the next steps are and what to do is really important. And funding obviously helps us build and grow our team to where we can support this work and scale to the point where we are effectively eliminating hunger where we can. Um, this really does not work without volunteers and a movement and a community behind it, right? The whole idea is to scale exponentially through community and through volunteers. So getting involved, downloading the app, telling your friends to download the app. Word of mouth, honestly, is probably the most powerful thing that you can do. And I think the best way to do that is either to do a rescue and then to tell your friends how easy it is, or to get a friend to do it with you. I've heard somebody, I was talking to somebody at a tabling event, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going to do this as a date." And I was like, "Well, okay, it sounds like a fun idea to, take a hinge date to go do a food rescue. Good way to at least, you know, weed out some of the people who maybe wouldn't be a good dating fit for you. Um, but getting the word out and making sure that this is a community effort, because if I'm going out and rescuing, you know, a couple 100 pounds of food every day, that certainly is impactful. But if you all are doing it and all of your friends are doing it and everybody is getting involved, that is exponentially more impactful than just one person doing it. Um, so together we really can impact hunger. And it goes back to kind of the beginning of this presentation of food, of hunger and food waste and food access not being a supply and demand issue. It's a supply chain issue. And by each of us getting involved and just doing our part to feed our neighbor, we can really have a huge impact on both the environment and hunger. Um, I think that's most of my thoughts. So with that being said, I think I'm a few minutes early, but I would be happy to open it up to questions and we can go from there.
Thank you so much, Jake. Um, yeah, if anyone has questions, please feel free to hop in the chat and ask away. Um, to kick it off, we had one question from an audience member, which was, why is food in a landfill a problem? Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think I should start by saying that I am not a scientist, so I think that going online and doing a lot of reading on this will certainly help. But I can give you a very basic answer to this. When food is in the landfill, it emits carbon and methane, and or food that's yeah, in a landfill, emits carbon and methane, and those greenhouse gases are extremely harmful to the environment, as I'm sure many of you know. So, in order in addition to that, there's a lot of resources, water, gas, things like that, that go in and go into food production before the food is even set out on your table. So that's all kind of taken into account of when let's say take an onion for an example. If that onion, all of the resources that are put into growing that onion, if that onion is not eventually consumed for its overall purpose of hopefully being eaten, um, all of the resources that went in, not only does the carbon and the methane uh, are emitted into the environment, but all of the resources then that went into producing that single onion are wasted. So that's a very basic answer. Please, I encourage you to really look up the environmental impact of food waste on your own time, but it, it it certainly is harmful for the environment.
Thanks. There's another question of, do you have a surplus of orgs donating food, or are you still trying to grow that side of the process?
Yeah, I'm absolutely still trying to grow that side of the process. The I think growing intentionally with both donors and volunteers is important, right? Reliability in food rescue is very important. So if a donor calls me and says, "Hey, we've gotten, a donation tomorrow," I want to make sure that we've got volunteers to go pick up that food. But yeah, we're absolutely looking for more donors. So if any of you know or have connections to restaurants, caterers, grocery stores, please put them in touch. The only places that we cannot accept food from are private residents. So if you're cleaning out your pantry, unfortunately, we can't take food from your private home. There are just too many food safety concerns associated with that. Um, and from food that's been set out on a self-serve buffet at an event, again, there's food safety concerns with that. But other than that, yeah, we're absolutely looking to add donors who are wanting to participate and not wanting to throw away their excess food.
Currently, where have you seen the most success in terms of orgs that are donating food?
Yeah, there's been a lot of corporate offices actually that have prepared food, either in the middle or end of the week, that are wanting to donate. There's also been both airports and their food service programs have been donating really consistently. So thinking a little bit outside the box, it's not just grocery stores. Farmers markets at the end of their market have been really productive places to pick up food, excess food from. Of course, grocery stores too are going to be probably the bread and butter, no pun intended. But corporate caterers and food service companies that are do the catering for corporate offices.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Um, we have another question, which is how much of the rescued food is healthy? Health clinics may be interested in distributing healthy food to patients through a community nutrition program.
Yeah. I I am not a dietitian, so I don't have a working definition for what healthy food is. What I can tell you is that, and I haven't looked up the statistics on this in the past couple of weeks, but I think above 80 or 85% of the food that we rescue is uh, perishable food and not strictly what I mean by that is not non-perishable food. Um, so prepared foods, produce, meat and protein, baked goods, things like that that are not non-perishable. Um, the the word healthy, I think, could have maybe there is a working definition for it. I don't know it myself. Um, so many people would have many different opinions on what healthy food is, but I can tell you the breakdown of what food that we offer is um, perishable or fresher food is above 80%. Yeah. And actually, going back to the first question about the environmental impact, I'm just now remembering this. If food waste itself global food waste were its own country, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases behind the US and China. Now, I think that statistics is a few years old, but either way, it's still pretty alarming that food waste would be as as bad for the environment as the entire United States or China. Not as bad, but the third largest behind those two. I think pretty significant.
That's very significant.
Yeah.
We have a few questions that are about the app in general. I guess maybe to kick it off, can you tell us more about the app? Like who developed it? What are the tech specifics of how it was made?
Yeah. The app developers and tech team are actually with the organization that I worked with when I lived in Pittsburgh. 412 Food Rescue turned there's an organization called Food Rescue Hero that was born out of 412 Food Rescue. That technology is the technology that I then licensed to start Chicago Food Rescue with. Um, so it was designed there by a team of people who what I would affectionately call food rescue nerds. People who were just doing food rescue with their own vehicles on an Excel spreadsheet. And then when that became kind of too much of a burden or too much of a little bit of a logistical mess to manage, they developed their own app with the help of some developers. So that's been now going on for close to 10 years, and there are 25 different cities or organizations that are using Food Rescue Heroes technology to combat food waste and hunger across the country. And there's one in Vancouver, Canada, too. So I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder, so I can't tell you specifically about how the app was developed, but I uh, have some of the background information for you.
Do they currently do the maintenance of the app
Yes,
as well?
yes, they do.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah.
We have a bit of a process slash tech question on the app, which is, can you describe how the app links up to nonprofits' existing platforms? For example, a farmer's market may already use a volunteer sign up site.
Yes, so it doesn't link to nonprofit or food donors platforms, the way that it works is food donors and nonprofits will get in contact with me, whether they call, text, email. I will onboard them as a donor onto our admin side of our web app. And what will then happen is when if a donor has a donation, I will call, text, email nonprofits until I find one that's a good fit, and I will then basically create a rescue on the web app, which will then a notification will then go out to all of our volunteers, signaling to them that a rescue is available. Um, does that hopefully answer some of the question? I'm not the most technical person, and I realize that I might be in it with a group of people who are more technically proficient. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks. I think that definitely clears it up a little bit more for me.
Okay.
The app looks like it solves the transportation aspect of the logistical problem, sorry. Do you think there are opportunities to better directly connect supply with demand? For example, if I have an abundance of food, I don't know who might want it by tomorrow before it expires.
Yeah, so if that food is coming from a food business, we would be Chicago Food Rescue would be a great solution. Again, it is a rapid recovery response. So if you're calling me and saying, "Hey, we have food to donate tomorrow," we can often find a nonprofit pretty immediately, and then it's just about finding a volunteer. And again, if you've got hundreds of volunteers who have downloaded the app and are looking to get involved and do rescues, there's almost certainly somebody who's going to be able to pick up that food in that time frame. And I mean, in Chicago, in a city of what, 10 plus million people, I guess the metro area is 10 plus million. The idea is that democratizing food rescue out to, many thousands of people, there's going to be somebody who can rescue that food pretty rapidly, pretty immediately, and get it to an organization who can use it. Um, if you're talking about, if the question is more geared towards uh, private residents or an individual donating food, yes, I do think that the answer was, and mostly because I'm not wanting to facilitate food donations between individuals and nonprofit partners, again, just mostly because of food safety concerns. If that's the case, then please do reach out and I can give you contact information for nearby nonprofits that you can talk to directly and facilitate your own food donation. But yeah, that's a really great question. Um, and connecting, sometimes connecting the, again, donor directly with a nonprofit is a wonderful answer. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. I guess another tech-related question. Is there anything that you think is missing currently from your tech solutions that you have right now? Or if you had a magic wand and you could wave it, is there anything you'd be like, this is what I want?
Yeah, I think I've talked about this with the tech developers, having an ability to, like, a tagging feature of this donation was this type of donor, or this is food that was redistributed from, let's say we're taking it from, you know, it's coming from a warehouse that was already rescued from somewhere else and it's being donated back out to us, like redistributed food, just because we don't want to double count the environmental impact that that food is having from already being rescued. Um, that's probably too in the weeds and doesn't make sense to a lot of people on this call, but a tagging feature would be helpful for the type of, occasionally being able to tag the type of donation that it was. Um, I'm trying to think what else. There are a couple other bells and whistles that I think, but none that are major that would be, worth talking about here.
Yeah,
Yeah, the tech is honestly really, it allows us to do and rescue food exponent. Like, again, I'm a one person team. Rescuing 100,000, 125,000 pounds of food in a year would be totally infeasible as one person. But that technology allowing me to manage, you know, I think it's 55 plus volunteers who have done 600 plus rescues. It's a really powerful tool that does work really well.
yeah, that's amazing. It's a great application of technology.
Yeah.
Uh, is there any case where there has ever been an outage on the app or like something doesn't work properly? And is there a backup flow that you use in that case?
There hasn't been an outage since I've been using it. No, not in the past year. I don't think. Not to my knowledge. I could be wrong about that, but there's not been an outage to my knowledge. Is there a backup flow? Um, no, that's a good question. I don't think that there is. I think the backup flow would be, a volunteer getting in contact with me and me knowing the address of the donor, the nonprofit partner, and going. I wouldn't call it full manual there, but texting them the information, the contact information, and things like that.
Got
Yeah.
it. We have a question from someone who looks like it could be a potential volunteer, but they ask for volunteers without cars. Could a pickup or rescue be served by bike or trailer or cargo bike?
Yeah, absolutely. I have there's a volunteer and also a friend of mine, and a friend of his who do a rescue. He since was in a actually a accident unrelated to doing food rescues, just riding his bike around, but that do a rescue from the Whole Foods in Hyde Park every Saturday. So they go and pick up food in their cargo bikes. Um, Sometimes rain, mostly hopefully shine, and rescue food that way. So there definitely are opportunities for volunteers to do this without a car. I would say it's not for the faint of heart. If you're doing it on a bike with a cargo bike, you're probably somebody who loves biking anyway. In that case, I love biking around the city. One of my favorite things about Chicago by far. But doing rescue on a bike is certainly more involved. If you are going to do that and think about claiming a rescue, I would say get in touch with me and just ask, like, hey, is this a rescue that you think might work for a bike? And I could tell you yes, no. Usually it's 3 boxes and you could totally fit in your cargo bike, or like, no, you really need a car for that one. Um, but yeah, just if that's the case, then please reach out. I'm here to support and actually, be the human behind this technology and make sure that we're supporting you in that way.
Awesome. Um, is there any opportunity we can contribute to this project technically, like contribute to the app development?
That would be a better question for the app developers. If you are interested, please reach out and I can ask the app developers and see if they're needing technical assistance and then put you in touch if they are. But I would not be able to answer that question definitively.
Got it. You touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but you mentioned you were in Pittsburgh before. I'd love to hear more about yourself. What did you do before Chicago Food Rescue, and what led you to starting the org?
Yeah, I worked in inventory management for Dick's Sporting Goods. So that was kind of my introduction into supply chain logistics. But I think really the origin story for me was when I was talking with a man who was homeless in Pittsburgh, and we, he asked me for some food or whatever it was, for some money. I said, let's just go get a sandwich together or a slice of pizza, whatever it was, and we started talking, and I asked him what are some things that you need. He said, I need a tarp. And I was like, well, I have a tarp in my house. If you just sit here for a few minutes, let me go run back in my house, get a tarp, and I'll bring it out to you. I did, and we started talking and realized that it wasn't a tarp isn't expensive. Like if I could ask friends for a few bucks, I could raise money to get tarps and paracord rope and tent stakes, and make basically a very rudimentary A-frame tent. Not that that's a comprehensive solution to homelessness by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something. And that got me thinking, if we all just do something, if we all just do a little bit to help the person next to us or our neighbor, or whoever it is that needs a little bit of help, needs a hand, um, we can have a real impact, right? And so I started thinking, I want to be more involved. I kind of want to get away from corporate America, or at least if I'm involved in corporate America, I want to do something that I can give back with my time. And so what can I do? I need something that's flexible. I need something that's impactful. So I started doing some research and I found 412 Food Rescue, and I started doing rescues either on my way home from work, or I can't remember if we were working remotely back then. But I would do rescues when I could. And again, that's not a comprehensive solution to hunger or food waste, but it was something. And if everybody just does their little part, um, we can really have an impact on our community. And that's really a large part of my ethos and my outlook on the world.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with that. You mentioned Chicago Food Rescue is a relatively new nonprofit, like 2 years old, right?
Yeah, a year,
Or
just
a
under a
year.
year. Well, our
Um,
launch is just under a year, yeah.
wait, that's amazing. Congrats. I'm curious, what other orgs exist in Chicago, and who else is working on food insecurity in the city?
Yeah, the obviously Feeding America is headquartered here. Greater Chicago Food Depository is here, and they're doing a massive amount of really great work in the city. Um, so it goes without saying that they're here. Chicago Food Sovereignty Coalition is doing food rescue in their own way. Slightly different model than ours, but still really important and impactful. Um, Green City Market has their own food access program where they are, I think, tripling the um, SNAP benefits. You can go to one of their markets, and if you are eligible for SNAP, the $25 all of a sudden is $75 to shop at one of their markets. There are incredible like just individuals who are doing food rescue on their own time that I've just met, and they're unaffiliated people who just have relationships with a grocery store and their own ministry at their church, or hand out food to people who are homeless living underneath bridges all across the city. So there are organizations as big as literally the biggest the food banking system in the probably country, maybe the world, is headquartered in Chicago, to literally just individuals going out there and doing it. Um, so Chicago really runs the spectrum of uh, food justice warriors, I would say.
Wow. We have time for, I guess, one or two more questions. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to, type them in the chat. I think one other question is, you talked a lot about Pittsburgh, and that makes me think, are there orgs in other cities you've modeled Chicago Food Rescue on? Are there orgs that you're kind of like in communication with? Is there any sort of larger parent organization that you're, kind of talking with?
Sure. Yeah, there's like I said, 25 other cities that are using the same technology as Chicago Food Rescue. The Food Rescue here is that technology. Um, and yeah, Rob, I see your message. I should have put my contact information at the end of the slides. I'll be sure to put it in the chat in a second. So there are 25 other cities who are using the same technology, and the benefit of that network of other food rescue organizations is really beneficial, whether it's just connecting. There might be a national or regional donor that, say, like Cincinnati, that Last Mile Food Rescue is in Cincinnati, and Kroger is a national grocery brand. Now, I haven't worked with any of the Kroger grocery stores yet, Kroger brand grocery stores in Chicago, but having a network of other people who are connected does really help. Sometimes it's helpful just to ask them questions. Hey, what would you do in this scenario? Sometimes it's resource sharing. There's a number of different what's the word? Synergies that are helpful across a network of other food rescue partners.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
Yeah.
We have quite a few questions just around how to reach out, and we have one actually that's specifically someone that works at a corporate office, and they're asking if they have, anything that you have from Chicago Food Rescue to pass over to their company.
Yes, Hunter, I see that message. I have been connected to a few of the folks at Lettuce, but yes, I would please email me, and I would love to either be connected to you directly or pass that one pager along, and I would love to be connected to other folks there. That'd be wonderful.
Awesome, thanks.
Um, yeah.
Um, Perfect. Yeah, I guess that is about our time for questions for the evening. Is there anything you want to share and leave us with? And is there any contact information that you might be able to um to share out as well for the video recording?
I think the best way to reach me is either through email. I'm also going to put my phone number in here. It's my work number. I'm more responsive to that. Uh, so if you hang on, I just need to, yeah. Or Either reach me through email or send me a text, call. Either way is the best way to reach me. Our app is just called Chicago Food Rescue. If you search for it in the App Store, you can find it. ChicagoFoodRescue.org. I'll also drop that in the chat. Is the website, um, which will have all of our information. It will have links to the app, things like that. Links to donate if you choose, or if you know people who would be interested, send that to them. I think those are the best ways to get in contact with us. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It
Thank
was
you.
really a pleasure having you and speaking with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the platform and ability to share our mission with a group of new people.